Fresh cold beverage. Gotta stay hydrated. We're live. It is 7:15 in the evening. Hopefully everybody's doing well, having a good weekend. We were checking out. We took the Brady and Bruno for a walk and took them over to a big parade that we have here locally. And we got to watch a bunch of, cool cars and people, all kinds of cool stuff. And one of them, a perennial favorite, they're here every year, is the shopping cart. I think it's sponsored by Lucky's or something. And so it's the shopping cart with a big block end. It's got side pipes and all kinds of stuff on it. It's very, very cool. And naturally we got to thinking that, hey, what could you really run this thing? I don't know. I didn't look at it in detail enough to see. I think that the steering comes from like up top. And so what's going on with my internet here? It's kind of weird. But at any rate, I was curious to see. I wonder if you could actually run that thing. Like, would it actually, like, could you actually like make power? I mean, and put it down and run, because if you sat the guy back behind the motor and had the steering linkage hooked up there, and it'd be cool to make a pass on the thing. It's really big and it's top heavy, and it's obviously not very aerodynamic. It'd just be fun to see, because in fact, what you guys can let me know in the chat here. What do you guys think? Any idea what this thing would weigh? I mean, do you guys have any idea on what this big black powered shopping cart would weigh? I don't think it's the van towed the Camry 125 miles. Very, very good. I don't think it's very heavy. I would assume that all of the thing is like roll bar tubing and stuff, but and so that part of it's not light. But there's just nothing there, I'm curious to see does it weigh as much as a car? Does it weigh less than a car? What does it do? And then can we run it? Can we run it like, I want to see this thing go down the quarter mile. I don't know if it ever has. I haven't seen any videos online. So you guys let me know if you think that it has, if it's actually gone down the quarter mile, because that would be cool. I would hope that they have done it, or at least tried it, or somebody way back. I mean, because I think I have video that goes back 10 years where this thing was running in this parade. And so it's been around, it's been around the block. It's been on lots of stuff. It's very, very popular. The interesting thing though, is in this parade, as cool as that thing is, it's not, it was not the most popular thing. As a side note, I made a post today on Instagram, and it was really funny too. We were standing there watching the parade we were standing there with the dogs, and Lisa and I were standing there, and then a whole slew of Corvettes came by, maybe some sort of Corvette club or something. And there's a variety of different things. And there's, early ones, probably 57, 58, kind of like that, a mid 60s one. And then there was a 68 or 69, a couple of earlier ones, and then a whole slew of other like kind of later model ones. And as all the Corvettes are going by, I'm thinking like, which one would I like the best? And then Lisa said, I wonder if they all have their Corvette driving gloves on. Wow, shots fired. But it was awesome. But that wasn't that's a side note. The coolest thing about the parade, and the thing that made everybody that was watching it the happiest, is, and I think that this was the last one, is there's a company that does like foam parties and bubble parties and stuff. And so what they did is they had their foam thing on the back of their rig, and they were just spraying it out back behind to the crowd, and all the kids from the parade were just back there walking. So we did a short video of and I'll probably post it. We did a video of me taking the dogs over, and we were joining the foam party. It was pretty cool. But all of the little kids were just losing their mind, because they really got to be in the parade, which was awesome. This was right where they did the judging and stuff. So all of the kids are just running off of the thing, kind of like when the guy goes by with free candy or whatever. They all kind of mob that guy, but they all got to be in this, and they're getting foam and bubbles and everything, just doing all the great stuff. It was very, very cool. It makes me wonder also on the shopping cart thing, because watching this parade, watching lots of cool cars and stuff, watching, cause they had a lot of cool like lowriders and stuff. There's a lot of good stuff. And then the Shriners were there zooming around on their carts and stuff. One poor guy, something happened to his cart. It broke or ran out of gas or something. And so he had to be towed by the little tow truck that they have. But the guy, guys are all zooming around, which is that's always a good part of it. They're doing their synchronized driving and everything. That was very cool. But it was nice to get away and watch that stuff. It's getting away from doing car stuff to go watch more car stuff. But all of that's good stuff. The cart though, I in looking at the cart, that thing's been around a long time. Is there something else though that you guys can think of? Let me know in the comments, and the guys that are watching after this is over, not just in the live feed, but let me know, what do you guys think what would be another cool parade car? Like I'd like to do I've always wanted to do, it could be, my idea is to do a Nash Metropolitan because I love Nash Metropolitans. But if you put because I was telling Lisa, I said it needs, these things that are going by and they're revving their engines and stuff, I said it needs to throw flames. I said these things, if it's a parade, they need to have zoomies on it, and it needs to be shooting flames out. Now you can just do that very easily, just inject fuel into it and have put spark plugs in it and stuff. It's not that hard to configure that, because some of the floats that they had spark makers and the CO2 cannon blast and stuff, which is cool because everybody wants to see that. They want to see that kind of excitement. But for the cars, you want to have something that has like I was saying, a Nash Metropolitan, but with like a big block or an LS with a big blower on it and zoomies. So it's really loud, and you want it to throw, you want to throw flames, because that's what the people want. They want, we want smoke and fire and all that stuff. They want all that stuff. So I was thinking that would be very cool. But let me know in the comments. I'm curious to see what else would be cool, along the lines of this shopping cart, with like, bar stools or whatever. Let me know what you guys think. First to go beverage. What are other good ideas that guys could do? Golf carts, or I think somebody's done the like the radio flyer wagons. I think that they've done big versions of those. I think I remember seeing those. Those would be good. Although if you left the arm steering, that would be diabolical. But I think I've seen those. There's lots of other stuff. But let me know. We got a lot of sharp guys here. What's going on? A shopping cart big block with bubble blowing injection would be amazing. It's part of the next generation. Have to get back to work. Drag van, did you run your car? Did you run your van? I love Grandpa Munster's coffin car. Yeah, that was cool. Or a Flintstone car, that kind of thing. I believe anything can be done for the right price. Is the live feed not going well? Can you guys hear it and see it okay? Seems odd that the people have kind of signed off. I might have to sign back on. Could use a wheelie bar, 2,000 pounds max. I'm not getting any answers, so I'm assuming that people are not good. A little bit of a delay. Okay. I wonder what the deal is. I have a 454 and a 77 MC. I want to get 350 plus. How can I make it? What is an MC? Is that a Monte Carlo? 350 from a 454 is just a stock 350. Oh, it's a holiday weekend. That's why nobody's here. Although there's a bunch of people here to begin with, and now the numbers seem to be dwindling. In any junkyard 454 that we go get from the wrecking yard, like if we go get a Gen 6 454 from a truck, that was originally fuel injected, and we put a dual plane intake manifold on it, a carburetor, 650, 750 carburetor, headers on it, and a distributor on it, it makes 375. And then if you put a cam in it, it makes 425. So that sort of power level is very, very easy to get out of a 454. Not hard at all. Just like putting a cam in a 5.3 or a 6.0 or any of those. All those are good. All those are good in the hood. 454 is better at 600. 600 on a 454 is getting up toward a race piece or a race only piece. It's to make 600 with a 454 is a pretty big cam, good heads, compression stuff. So that's not easy. 600 out of a 496 is a much more drivable kind of package. Cashmere scarves. Yeah, no, thank you. Fleet feet. There. And we're clicking. For with turbo and ring gap. Yeah, even like we were talking about, even at 454, like a small cam in that Gen 6 carbureted one, when you add boost to that, you're doing the same thing that you would do if you had a cammed like 5.3. I mean, you're going to make a lot more low speed power with a 454, obviously. But if they both made 425, which is fairly easy to do with either one of them, just a cam, and then you add boost to it, obviously really good things can happen. And at not very much boost, you're talking about a lot of power. What would pair good with a stage 1 cam that would make good power? Well, what do you mean? What else are you asking about besides the camshaft? And I don't know what you mean about a stage 1 cam. When you're adding a cam to a big block, just like any other stock motor, one of the things that you would have to think about is you need to think about available piston to valve clearance. And with big blocks, you also need to figure out what cylinder heads that you have. I don't know what you, because all the stock heads are different. So you need to look at that and figure out if you have the available retainer to seal clearance. Do you have the right spring? You know, do you have the right installed height? Do you have the right seat pressure, the right open pressure? Is all of that stuff worked out with whatever kind of cam you have? And do you have enough piston to valve clearance too with that stage 1 cam? It sounds like that's going to be kind of small, so it's probably not going to be a problem. But what else are you wanting? I don't know what your question is, open-ended. How can I rebuild my 400 small block back with a little more power? If it's all stock, more than likely you can add a 4-barrel to it, because it almost certainly had a 2-barrel if it was stock. The Fuelie head, I mean, it doesn't have Fuelie heads on it, but if it did, they would be better. If they were VORTECH heads, they would be a little better. If they were any kind of aftermarket, especially an aluminum head, they would be better. You can put, obviously, there are much better camshafts than any of the cams that would have come in a regular small block 400. A 496 stroker, I'm going to do twin turbos. Wondering if you've ever had problems with cap walk at 1,000 horsepower. If it's above 1,000, you could have problems with that. Is it I'm assuming that this is a 4-bolt. And which block is it? Is it a Mark IV? Is it a Gen 5, a Gen 6? And then what are you doing with that 1,000 horsepower? If you're taking 1,000 horsepower and putting in a boat and legging the thing out at 1,000 horsepower for minutes at a time, you're going to have problems. Otherwise, you know, if you're just doing it like in a quick jag race thing, or it's a street thing and you're just accelerating every once in a while, it's not going to be an issue. If you're doing off-road racing with a 1,000 horsepower twin turbo deal, it's going to be problematic. 454 AFR 265 heads. Those are excellent heads. 229 at 50. Do you think it makes 500? Yes, I do. Does it have a dual plane intake manifold on it? I'd like to see a big block go-kart. I have seen go-karts with, I don't remember seeing one with a big block, but but there probably have been. I mean, I'm almost certain that there had to have been. They would have had to reinforce it a little bit from a normal go-kart chassis, but. Do you have an LS valve spring compressor you prefer to use with the head still on the block? The one I have is a pain. We have valve spring tools that we use. And I think that Jimmy hasn't put them up yet. Maybe because I've used this style before, but maybe we haven't done enough testing with it yet. But the design that we got is easy to use. There's lots of different ones. I mean, it's just basically something that bolts onto the holes for the rocker studs or the rocker bolts. And then it's got another through hole on the top. It's got a little hook over it. And then you put a plate on it and then you spin it and the plate has it's like a fork. They push down the valve springs and then you just take out the keepers, and as long as you put air in there and hold the valves up, it's really easy to change springs. The hardest thing is if you're going from or the most time consuming thing, it's not hard, but the most time consuming thing is if you're going from a simple beehive spring to a dual spring. Every time that I've seen people do that, they have to also change the spring cup and the guide, which on a factory one, those are the same thing. But on an aftermarket one, you put a new spring cup in to locate a locator for the springs. You put that in after you take the factory guide and spring seat in. Take that out, and then you put the new spring cup or locator in, and then then you got to drive the new seal on. And then after you're done with that, I mean, it's not hard, but the only thing that happens is sometimes guys hurt the seals when they're putting them in. We tap them in with a 12 millimeter and we use like one of the plastic mallets, and that taps in fairly well. And usually you can feel it seated all the way down. And then once you do that, then you can just reinstall the spring, and then you compress them, put the locks in, undo the threaded bolt, and then it comes right up. It's really pretty fast. For first build, it's a factory 2-bolt 454. I'd like to make 450 plus on a budget. One is not everyday driver, but I will drive it a lot. Okay. It's hard to go wrong. I don't know what factory heads you have. I don't know what year it is. Is what year it is, if those are the original heads for the motor, is going to dictate how performance oriented they are. They could be all the way from a set of older closed chamber or even open chamber rec port heads, which would be the factory. I mean, the ultimate factory thing would be an L89, L88, ZL1 kind of cylinder head. It's not going to be that. All the way to the other end of the spectrum is a set of peanut port oval low performance heads. And then there's a bunch in between there. An aftermarket set of heads is going to be better. Those Airflow 265s are really good, or an Airflow Research Enforcer head is really good for that. Any sort of aluminum head is going to be way better than any of these iron heads, just because it will help with detonation. And all of the aftermarket aluminum heads, with some exceptions, they're all going to be better than the factory stuff. And 450 horsepower is not hard to do. I mean, a cam will get you 425. Work on a low budget turbo LS using your data. Yeah, there's lots of it out there. That's good stuff. Exactly what I'm doing. I broke the seals driving those smaller style seals in. Yeah, you had to get I use the black 12 millimeter Harbor Freight socket that I've had that set for, I don't know, 20 plus years now. Prestige, what's going on? Crazy idea number. Will big block max wedge heads bolt up to a 383? I'm the wrong guy to answer that. Is you want to make an intake for a low deck that would match up to those heads? I would imagine that the max wedge heads probably would bolt up, right? But I don't know about an intake for that. 2-bolt Gen 5 block. Okay. ARP main studs. It's going to be a streetcar. I was wondering, since it seems to be a problem when you make that kind of power. I don't know that much. Joshua. Yeah, that's not the route that I would recommend. And I've never seen a 2-bolt Gen 5 block. Every Gen 5 and Gen 6 block that I've ever seen is a 4-bolt. Cut and welded Coyote V10 on a 6-liter Coyote heads. Yeah, they already did the 4-valve ones. Coyotes would be better probably because they're probably better heads. And then if you could have variable cam timing to go with that, that would be better. Have you had good luck with internal wastegate turbos? Yes, on very small ones, on factory style things, but not on the like LLS power level stuff. Cam was used for 44 with 049 heads and dual valve relief, flat tops, only board 20. How much power do you want to make? That's the very first thing that we have to talk about. The 454 and the heads, I mean, that could be anywhere from 200 horsepower to ported versions of those can make a lot. Coolant jackets line up well enough, though the oil feed and drain will likely have to be tapped from the outside. 450 to 500. Yeah, 049 heads should not have any problem getting you there. Flat top pistons are going to be low compression on that. So 450 is probably more doable than 500 is, unless it's a big cam. And the valve release would help you put a bigger cam in, but I don't know what you want to do in terms of cam. Do you want the thing to be drivable? Do you care that you put a 240 at 50 camshaft in, or do you want more like a 220 at 50 and you're willing to give up the top end so that it drives around better? I was going to keep variable cam timing. Yeah, that would be helpful. A daily driver. Yeah, you're going to want, it's going to be more towards 450 as a daily driver. The other deal is trying to get Coyote cams working and a 464 valve heads. I know I can get the crank sensor working and the cam sensor shouldn't be hard. I get, I want guys to go out and experiment and do all that stuff. I just don't maybe understand why you're trying to do that. I mean, why wouldn't you just have a Coyote because you have a 5-liter with 4 valve heads and it already has the variable cam and a good intake and all that stuff bolts on. I don't know why you would want to get Coyote cams to work on that. Do you think that a factory Coyote cam, are you just trying to get variable cam timing on it? Have a quick question. What would the CC rate be for a factory GM 3.5 5-cylinder if I decap them as possible to use them with or without a tune? No on using them without a tune. If you're going to decap something, it usually changes the fuel flow dramatically. So you can't just put bigger injectors in. That's not going to work. Not with that sort of change. And I don't know what the starting rate is. I have no idea even what size injectors those are. And then I have no idea what they'd be if you decapped them. And if you did do that, you're going to have to do a bunch of them to get them all, get one set that's going to be even. Once I've proven it on a 4.6, poured it over 4 valve heads on the V10. Okay. I want it on a 5.4, 5.8 Trinity and the 6.8 V10, but the V6 would allow me to use a modified Coyote crank and OEM Coyote timing chains and likely OEM Coyote chain. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm all for you doing all that. Factory injectors are 250 to 305 cc's. So which one of those is it? That's a really big difference in flow rates. The factory injector either has to be one of those or the other one. Or is that a variation depending on what year it is, or whether it was a turbo version or something? Because that seems like to be a pretty big spread. Oh, depending on year. Okay. Would the small turbo that you sell spool well as twins on a 5.3, and can I make 1,000 horsepower and pump gas with them? Yeah, the 1,000 horsepower is very easy. I don't know whether you can do that on pump gas. The turbos will support like 1,800. So that's obviously well within their wheelhouse. Whether you can do it on pump gas is going to be all in your tuning ability. The spool rate, I don't know. We're going to be trying that. The goal is a streetable 5.8 Coyote essentially, and then of course a V10. Okay, so you just want a bigger Coyote. Is LS engine considered to be a small block? I have a buddy who insists that all LS engines are small block, but I disagree. I think that they're in a category by themselves. I don't think that I mean, it'd be hard for me to argue that a 7-liter LS is a small block. But I think the small block Chevy stopped after the VORTECH stuff, after the L31 stuff. I know they continued the VORTECH name on the LS, but I don't think as the LS as a small block. I think it as its own thing. Would wastegate size help with back pressure? No. If the wastegate is closed, it has no effect on back pressure. And then when the wastegate opens, that's the opening, the amount that it's opened, and what it's adjusting. It's adjusting relative to boost pressure in the intake manifold. So you will always have a given amount of back pressure for a given amount of boost pressure, and that's determined by the power output of the NA motor, the size and the power output, versus the flow rate of the turbo, primarily the hot side. So the wastegate's not going to help determine that. And then the other variable in there is RPM. The higher the RPM is, the greater the back pressure is going to be. Big block Coyote, okay. Local pickup parts are running 50% off sale for the weekend. Hopefully I can find a 6-liter where somebody already pulled the fenders and the core support. That would be nice. I should grab Todd and we should go get some if there's something around here. The LS7 is a different deck height? No, it's not. Flat top pistons, Trek Norris cam, LS7 lifters, and 706 heads. Jason, what was your thing? Oh, your spool thing? Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know about the 1,000 horsepower on pump gas. It probably can be done. That's going to be dictated by timing and stuff. Would you be comfortable with 400 wheel horsepower with a stock 4.6 rod and pistons and heavy vehicle? Yes. What's the advantage of a bigger wastegate, better boost control? Yeah, if the wastegate has to be size so that it can bleed off the amount of exhaust pressure that it needs to bleed off to control the boost. If you have a wastegate that's too small, even when it's open all the way, you still, as we go up in RPM, have a rising boost curve because it can't get enough exhaust out to really control the boost. That happens also when the wastegate's in the wrong spot, when it's undersized, when it's in the wrong spot, and you know it's not operating properly. What's the ideal boost pressure versus back pressure? For what application is the thing? The one, there's no ideal. Are you talking about ideal for response rate? You're talking about ideal for maximum peak power? Are you talking about for the average driver? Are you talking about an OEM application? I mean, all of that is different. Have you seen wide-scope pistons are releasing turbo pistons for the VORTECH 4200? I thought that the ones that came in the 4200 were already turbo pistons. You have video on the Truck Plus cam? Yeah, I do. We have videos up on that. I found the one on the sloppy best. Is there any other video missing? How's the chop? I don't have idle clips if that's what you're wanting. I have power stuff. Which one of the turbos would you use for a Buick 455 for 600 horsepower for a daily? I wouldn't use a T6. I would use our G42 for that. Everyone's saying I want a big black Coyote. I'm going to sell what they need to make a big black Coyote out of a 5.4 or 5.8, relatively cheap. Then we'll see them everywhere, supposedly. Okay, you'll be rich. You'll be famous. I don't know if a 5.8 constitutes a 5.4 or a 5.8 relative to a 5 liter, if that constitutes a big block, but what's the difference between a GT45 and your new 32 turbo? Are they more expensive than GT45? I don't know what you mean by 32. We have two turbos right now. One is a GTX 3584 RS. The other one is a G42. And both of those make more power than a GT45. The smaller GTX 3584, it makes more power and is way more responsive than a GT45. The G42, that one will make 800 or so, or maybe even a little more. It's rated at 950, but we like it more at 800 for an LS. A G42 is a 1200 horsepower turbo, so it's not even comparable to a GT45. What rotating assembly and heads for 700 horsepower 486 big block? I have videos up where we've done stuff like that, but you're going to need the rotating assembly is not a big deal. You can use all kinds of stuff. You can use SCAT stuff. You can use bullet stuff from CP and Carrillo. There's lots of good stuff. I'm not worried about that. You're going to need to make 700 horsepower. You're going to need really good heads, and you're going to need a good sized camshaft. You're going to need compression. You're going to need a good intake manifold. Imagine a 2014 GT500 with variable cam timing. Yeah, it would be good. I don't know that certainly if you talk to them, I don't know if the Coyote guys feel like that they're underpowered, especially with boost. I don't think that that's a thing. 06 L2 vet with an old Callaway Magnus supercharger setup on it. Looked at the tune with a MPVI3. It's a very old setup. They're using the knock sensor to bolt timing for 93 with NA base timing. Why are they, if they have a supercharger on there, why are they running NA timing on it? I mean, you'd run NA timing on it up to 100 kPa, and then you'd start taking timing away from it. Ideal for low RPM boost, avoiding dangerous back pressure. If you want to make power at low speed, you are going to have high back pressure because that's how you get it. And I don't know why you say dangerous back pressure. Every factory turbo is 2 to 1 at least. And nobody at the OEM level thinks that that's dangerous back pressure. They can use beef turbo applications, however they are not forged. Okay. I mean, we've already run them with a turbo, so I guess they're turbo pistons. Made 452 wheel horsepower, 93 on your dyno. Going to run some C16 to see if it doesn't pull timing and how much power it makes. Oh, on your dyno? Okay. Nathan, what motor was that? Oh, that's with the magnet charger. Do you have any opinions on Haltech ECUs and what do you use to tune on the dyno? We normally run, all of my stuff has been with Holley. I have a Haltech now, and the next time I go down there, we're going to run it. We have a Rebel for the LS. And we have other Haltechs for the other motors that we're going to run. I'm going to run a Haltech on the Sprint at Bonneville, and I like their stuff. I've been talking about this for a long time. ECUs don't stop us from. I mean, almost every ECU that I know can give me the right air fuel and timing, which is kind of what I'm looking for. If I do the V10, that's a proper big black Coyote. There you go. Half off at the yard. Let's see, K24 or K20 versus a 2-liter Duratec. Yeah, I don't think that that's going to be a very... I mean, one of those is, what, 130 horsepower, and the other one's 200. I don't think that those are even close. Doesn't the Coyote already hold enough power boosted? Why would I seek something more complicated with less parts availability? Love to take the 5458 profits and then make the double over cam VCT equipped head with the Boss 6.2 that was always meant to have. Sell the kit alongside a 7-liter stroker kit. Wow, that's a lot. Can make 550 horsepower with stock 317 heads. No, with a Chupacabra cam. If you port the stock 317 heads, it will help you a lot. But you're not going to get to 550 I'm assuming that this is with a 6-liter. I mean, with a 5.3, you're not even anywhere near that. With a 6-liter, no, it's not going to make 550. Have you messed with a FuelTech ECU? I'm not even familiar with that now. Please do a video on the Rebel LS. Oh, I will. We'll do an install video and a test on it. And I'll be using it a lot for stuff. That's what I'm saying. It's very old. It's got an average NA base timing map for an LS, 28 degrees, and it's pulling a timing with the knock sensors. It starts making boosts. It only has a 1-bar map sensor. So it has a 1-bar map sensor and as an NA tune. I'm hoping it has bigger than stock injectors. Because relying on the knock sensors on an LS, I mean, they do that on the Coyote, but doing that on an LS, I don't think is a good way to go. I wish Holly gave more freedom for using the Coyote VCT control. You think that a steel girdle works on a big block like it does on a small block Ford? You mean a block girdle? I mean, I think it would help, but I don't think it's going to do what a 4-bolt setup does. Imagine a 7-liter Coyote making 700 the tire on 87. Yeah, 87 is not the way to go. I was wondering, 20 pounds of boost and 40 pounds of back pressure would be fine and not burning through exhaust piping. If you're wanting, not very many people are running 20 pounds, want 20 pounds down low. So almost everybody that would be running 20 pounds of boost would be running less than 2-to-1 back pressure. It'd be less responsive, but if you're running high boost, then you would just tailor the motor for that. Turbo cam should be at 112 LSA and higher for better turbo response on a GT45. No, that's absolutely false. I heard a FuelTech, a buddy of mine ran one on his rotary. LQ64. Yeah, a 317 headed 6-liter with a Chupacabra cam is not going to make 550. It's not going to make 500 probably. FuelTech is what a lot of Honda boys are using to make big power. They're breaking records with them, but that doesn't make any difference. That doesn't tell you that the FuelTech is really good, that other guys are using them on motors to break records, because the motors that they're using to break records are the motors. And lots of other fuel injections would be able to give that turbo motor, I'm sure the turbo motors, whatever air fuel it needs and whatever timing it needs to do what they're doing. So that's not a thing. What kind of signal does the 4200 require? I don't know. I'd be the wrong guy to ask. Duratec heads have good flow. Yeah, I don't doubt that. I just mean, I was just looking at the Sergeant. I was just looking at the factory power ratings. I don't think a Duratec motor has the cam timing that a K24 has. And it probably doesn't have the head flow that a K24 does either. It's got Ford 42-pound injectors. That's the way Callaway set these cars up when they made their early supercharger kits. Got to put a 3-bar in it, larger injectors, and pump and remap. Yeah, I mean, you're smart. You know what to do. I think that's the right way to go about it. It'll be much happier. An ECU is really just an ECU. Well, the things where ECUs can differ would be things like when you're talking about how many channels they have, and when you're talking about, maybe there's, I don't know, better range for drivability of things, and then transitions. And if you have enough channels to log all of the things that you want to log, or control all of the things that you want to control. Do you want boosting gear? Do you want traction control? There are a lot of things that you could do that's nothing to do with power, really. I can't believe it survived this long. Sent away as a new car in 2006 and has 50,000 miles on it. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the Coyotes run on the knock sensors. They do that from the factory. They do that NA. And so I presume they could probably do that supercharge. Old XL DFI still works. Yeah, I mean, carburetors work and distributors work. So getting the air, fuel, and timing is not that hard to do. And most all of them will do that. I think some people have this perception that there's some mystery and magic, behind that. In the same way that there are with different tuners and stuff. And if I put, like, if the motor wants 11.5 to 1 and wants to run at 22 degrees under boost, and somebody else comes in and gives it 11.5 to 1 and 22 degrees, doesn't matter how good of a tuner they are. It doesn't matter how long they've been doing it, how many world records they've set, how many fast cars, what reputation they have online. It's going to do exactly the same thing. I remember having this discussion with a very big-headed tuner guy. Oh, I should come tune your stuff. I said, well, it has 22 degrees, and it has the air fuel's 11.7. That's a turbo motor. So where are you going to go from there? Oh, you just don't understand it. I said, what I don't understand is why I'm having this conversation with you. Calvone, Nivlac 57. I like Nivlac 57 a lot better than Nivlac 56. That's how we do it. Near. Yeah, ICT car guys right about the getting rid of the 317s and putting different heads on it. You could even just go there and get some 706 heads. They would make more power than your 317s. They probably make 20 more. They would be better. But if you want to make 550 horsepower, you have to have good cylinder heads, like ported heads or aftermarket heads that are ported. If I go 225 trick flow heads with a chopper copper cam, can I reach 500 horsepower? Yeah, that's a small cam. I'm trying to think of where we were at here. Let's go to the data. Six-liter Trailblazer SS and Truck Plus. Where are we at? So we're at 450 with the Truck Plus cam, which is bigger than a Chopacabra. Trailblazer SS, 317 heads. That's on an LQ4. So that was with 317 heads. So if we go to 799 heads, let's say we get 15 or 20. You're still a long ways from that. The 225 heads, make them be 60 cc's or something, so you get compression back in it. That would help. The Chopacabra cam, I just don't know is going to get there. to give you an idea, we ran the LY6 motor, and to get it to go more than 500 horsepower, 660 LY6. Okay. Oh, so that one did good. So an LY6 6-liter with 799 heads made 525 with a big cam, though, with a 231 cam. So a Chupacabra cam is not going to be that. What did we make with the... But I think that had the... I don't think I ever ran... We ran an LS3 cam. With rec port heads and a sloppy stage 2 cam, it made 512. We ran, let's see. Oh, that's an LS3 intake, Summit cam, LS3 intake. With an LS3 intake, LS3 heads, and an LS3 cam, it made 475. And I think a Chupacabra would make a little bit more than an LS3 cam shaft. By, I don't know, 20 maybe. But you don't have this good a cylinder head. Trick flows would definitely get you there. I think you could get there with trick flows, smaller chamber, a good intake, and then that Chupacabra cam. Have you used MLS head gaskets? I don't know what MLX is. Switched over from LS9 to Kinetic MLX, and we've been able to push more boost at our stock heads without pressurizing the coolant system. We ran LS9 head gaskets on our 1500 horsepower stuff. I haven't gone beyond that. I always catch myself in those condos and then realize I'm needed for engaging. Would it be better to port the 3500 head, or would it be better to go with a 3700 head and port that with a 600 wheel horsepower 5-cylinder LV turbo with a whole set? It's easier to make more power with a bigger motor, if that's what your question is. Already bought the cams. I'm trying to max the power out. Yeah, I don't understand why you're trying to max the power out on that kind of cam. Like, I understand why a guy buys that cam. That's a good cam. It's a good driver cam. It makes similar power to the Truck Norris, which the guys from Brown Tooley Racing, they obviously sold a ton of those. The Chupacabra cam is like that. We showed it's very, very similar in power. So that's a good cam for doing that. For making lots of power out at 6,500 RPM on a 6-liter, that's not the cam I would pick. According to ChatGTP, depending on which engine, the K24 flows 30 to 60 more than a Duratec. Jesus, I want to see you test a Duratec. Oh, so that's the thing. I know, I wish I was doing Duratec stuff instead of the ZTEC stuff with the Focus, but I had a lot of fun with the Focus. I really like that car. My wife and I have fond memories of driving out to Bonneville and stuff in it. 35 and 37 are the same block, just slightly bigger bore and larger intake exhaust ports. Then just pick the one that has the better head. Chupacabra makes good torque, not good power. It makes good power too. It's just not. It's a 212 cam or a 216 cam or whatever. It's not a 230 cam. Bring back the Focus. I know. I think a Truck Plus 706 heads, 243, 799 ported would make for a nice street. On a 6-liter, We tried to get 500 horsepower with the Truck Plus on a 5.3 and weren't able quite to get there. We had really good heads on it. We had a fast manifold on it and that Truck Plus, and I think it was like 490 or something. We don't have E85 anywhere close to me, and I plan to draw the truck a lot. Sounds like I'm gonna have to give up on 4-digit dreams. I just don't know that you like. People don't realize what 1,000 horsepower is, or how often they're not going to use 1,000 horsepower. Good friend of mine who builds factory LSFs told me about Cometic's new MLX head gasket. We push coolant on our 408 at 24 pounds on LS9s, and we've seen 30 pounds already on those. Yeah, that seems odd. Like I said, we did 1540 at 29 pounds with LS9 gaskets, and we had CA625 head studs, which are really good, but there's nothing special about what we did. What makes a torque curve flat at high RPM? If you have a flat torque curve at high RPM, you have a rising power curve. So if you want a rising power curve at high RPM, you do all the things that make power at high RPM. More cam timing, more duration, shorter intake runner lengths, to some extent more head flow if the head flow is choking that off. Check them out. Pretty good gaskets. Okay. I have never had a head gasket problem on anything that we've ever run. But we can, I guess, try those. I don't like if it ain't broke, we don't go try to fix it. 1,000 horsepower rolling burnouts at interstate speed. Yeah, it's like I said, it's an amount of power that you can't really utilize. We're only running 11 millimeter ARP head studs. Haven't switched to larger studs. We didn't run larger head studs. We didn't run 1/2-inch head studs on anything. I've never run 1/2-inch head studs on anything. The CA625s were the 11 millimeters of 7/16 or whatever. They were that. And we just didn't know any better. I mean, and we're only making like dyno poles, which I don't know how that compares to what they're doing at the track. I don't know if one of those is worse than the other one. And we weren't doing it with factory heads either. I was thinking that one had the Gen 4 one had ported 317s, that Total Engineer Full ported 317s, which those made a lot of power. They made 1480 before we heard something. And then the later one had trick flows on it, I think. And 1330, I think, or something like that in terms of torque. I want to run a 4.8. I want to do two things with the 4.8. I want to make 500 horsepower with a 4.8, and then I want to make and then I want to do a big bang on a 4.8, another big bang on one. How do you feel about porting LS2 intake manifolds? I've never done it. I've never even seen one. The only ported factory intake I've ever tested is we tested a ported LS3 head or manifold, and it gained a little bit of power, but it was not very much. It's not at all what a fast manifold is. And on an LS3, it might be like a ported one might be better than a fast, because a fast doesn't really gain anything over a factory LS3 manifold. On a cathedral port, a ported truck or Trailblazer SS, I don't see how that can ever be what a fast is. The fast is so much better than those, particularly as you get higher in power. What are you doing? What are you doing? I know you're a good boy. You were good. You did good today, huh? I got to go to a foam party, huh? I did. It was so awesome. Big Bang 4.6, 2-valve, yes, it would be cool. Still running stock untouched LS3 823 heads. I think that's part of your problem. Factory heads are not what I would run on the kind of power and boost and stuff that you guys are running. I would pick an aftermarket head that has more deck thickness. Big bang another Ford motor before you kill another LS. Beverage. It didn't like me taking a drink there. I think that was might have been the fun police doing that. Contemplating either having the LS3 head sent off reporting, etc. Nathan, you should get aftermarket heads, because the ported head is not what's holding you back. The structure of the head is what's holding you back. 1200 horsepower, stock, short block, 2-valve. I would be happy if we got anywhere near 1,000 horsepower on a 4.6 2-valve. I wonder, one thing I don't know, do you know, Prestige, do you know what the deck thickness is on a stock head versus a trick flow head? Nathan, if I was getting, and I don't know what the deck thicknesses are, I'd have to look at that. But from a power standpoint, I'd get Airflow Research LS3 heads. I just don't know for boosted stuff. I don't know how thick the decks are off the top of my head. Richard, tell you what, if you do a 2-valve big bang, I'll buy you the motor of your choice. It would just be a 4.6 2-valve. It'd just be a PI motor. We have those in wrecking yards, so I don't think that's going to be too hard to find. It'd be nice to have a running one. But it's all got to come apart. Quite similar on the 4.6. It's never really the issue. Yeah, I think if we put ported stock heads on a 4.6 2-valve rather than trick flow heads, I don't think that would stop us from getting where we're going to get to. I still have a Cadillac. Yep. You kick a rod out of a 4.6 before the stock deck becomes a concern. Yeah, I think that's probably true. And it would definitely be a stock bottom end, because that's the only way to do big bangs. That's the rule for big bang stuff. That's Richard's rule. You need to do a rod and piston. No, I don't. That's just a built motor. That's a different thing. That's not a big bang one. Excuse me. That's just a built motor. Jimmy sent me a cool photo to something that they're working on. So here you guys can. Hey, dogs. Why are we barking? See if you guys can see this. Do you see all the snow there? Can you see that? I'm trying to get it so that it's not. You can kind of see. That's the foam party. Let's see. Can we get it to be better than that? Not really. That's the dogs enjoying their being dogs. From what Mahobas told me, it takes 200 plus before deck thickness becomes an issue. 200 plus what? Pounds of boost? I also have Frankenstein Monster M311 heads for sale. Have you run those? I've never tried them. I've heard good things about them, but I've never tried them. In fact, I think I would need to ask Brian what if they've done LS3 heads, LS3 based heads for some of their turbo things that they've done. Need to check PFI speed. Recent video with a K car with a Shelby engine. That's on the 4-valve stuff, but good luck making 200 plus on a 2-valve, 3-valve. What is 2,000 plus? I'm gonna say, what the heck is the 200 plus? It's not gonna make 2,000 horsepower on a 2-valve. That's nonsensical. Do you think a big bang on the dyno would be a different number in a vehicle? There would be differences. Yeah, I do think it would be. I think because the load is going to be different, and the registered number on a chassis dyno would most certainly be different. You inspired me to rebuild a 4.8 LS stage 2 830 injectors and a turbo. Are you trying to make lots of power, and what turbo are you running and stuff? And what stage 2 cam are you running, and like what RPM are you running? The 3 cylinders coming along good. What did I just get for that? Oh, I just got the diff for it. The gentleman from Canada sent me a diff out. It took a long time to get here, but it finally arrived. So I have the final drive that I need to get all that top end Chrysler 2.2 turbo or a 2.5 turbo with modern electronics at PFI. Okay. I'll have to watch that because I'm interested in that. It's for rock buggy, truck Norris cam, VS Racing turbo. Okay, all that's good. I don't think I would pick a. Oh, I definitely pick a truck Norris cam, but not a stage 2. For a rock buggy though. Give me some work to do. I think I'm gonna have to start looking into deck thickness for some aftermarket heads. I want to make it to 60 miles an hour the fastest I can in my Silverado. What cam and intake what I need? Confused with high ram and low ram. If you're trying to get to 60, you don't need either one of those intake manifolds. The manifold that you have in your 16 Silverado is going to be the best one that you could do for 60 miles an hour, because you want a long runner one. You want all the torque that you can get because you're leaving in first gear and you're running through from low to high RPM on that, whatever your shift point is. So a converter, it would be best. Probably gears, unless you already has like 4 series of gears, and I don't know what gears it has. If it's 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, so that you can launch really hard and get to 60 miles an hour, and then nitrous. You want a dry deck if you exceed 2,000. Yeah, I'm actually looking at doing weird stuff like that on the not a dry deck, but we're looking at doing a sleeved one or a deck insert or epoxy deal for one of the 3 cylinders. At some point, they're going to first go to an aftermarket block or aftermarket big block. This is a never-ending power goal. Yeah, because it's pretty easy to get up to. It's pretty easy to go 2,000 horsepower on these things with turbos. I mean, it's not hard. That's not hard at all. Philantina's, what's going on? You're here just in time, and we never had a poll. I have a converter. I'm installing 410s. Just wanted to see what direction I should head into the next after that. You should get one of our low buck truck cams. That would be good for that. I don't think I'd go any bigger than that for what you're wanting to do. Low end torque for the rock buggy. I would the truck Norris is good. I wouldn't get any stage 2 cam or stage 1 like truck cam or any of that. The truck Norris is good. That's a good choice. Our low buck truck cam does what that cam does. It does it for less money. So if you want to save money, you can get that. But that's the cam that I would recommend. Cobra Kellogg cranks won't live past 2,500. You got to go billet crank past that. He never had a stock sleeve. Texted failed due to block problems. It's always the fault of the rods. Yeah, I'm not living up in that area and in that 2,500, 3,000 horsepower thing. Just finished watching. I do cars teardown of a GM V8. Which V8 is it? It was amazing. Don't want to ruin his video, but what a failure. Do you have any idea how turbos perform when they're mounted on a cylinder head that collects all cylinders into one port? Are you talking about the heads that have the joined exhaust port and then it exits into one? The Honda guys are running those heads on stuff and on a turbo, and it still works good. We tried to do it on a Volkswagen Bonneville project, and it did not work well. I mean, it did okay, but not as well as having an individual port and then an exhaust manifold. A 6.2 LT motors. Okay. Cooked all the bearings. Pretty spectacular. That's not good. That is not good at all. Is there any chance compressor supercharging guys are developing a watered down, less horsepower, more affordable system now that they've done all the heavy lifting? Are you meaning just less expensive? Because the amount of horsepower that you could supply, you can have it be less than that. You can have it be what, you know, almost whatever you want. I mean, there is a range. I don't know how you, I don't know how you trim. There's no fat there. I don't know how you trim that. I don't know how you trim it and make it less expensive. I don't think that it's ever going to be a low buck street kind of thing, or even for the lower levels of racing. I think that that's all for guys that know how much money stuff costs, and they've blown engines up, and they've gone through nitrous, and they've gone through pistons, and they've gone through all that stuff, and they realize that, like the guy that was like Mark, that rather than replace motors and parts and between rounds and stuff, that if you get something that just lives and works, that even though you spent money on the system ahead of time, that's still a better deal. Tunable so that any boost curve can be made. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, and like I said, I just am a huge fan because of if nothing else, just because of the charge temperature. I know that it's limited in what it can do and what kind of applications it functions for. But from a technology standpoint, it's still very, very cool. And when I say that, that means that I would love to have negative 80-degree charge temperature. Yeah, compressors are not cheap because the pressure is so high. I think what people want is they want them to be like just regular nitrous fill stations. They want that. Sounds like so engine friendly. Well, what negative 80-degree charge temperature does, it creates another problem of things potentially being too cold, which is a diaphragm and other kind of problems. But what it does, it dramatically widens the tune window. So like when you get to where you're running 2 or 3 or 5 kits of nitrous, the tuning window is this small. And as we go up and up and boost, the tuning window becomes narrower and narrower, especially if you guys are combining that with high static compression so that they're making more power and stuff. You know, narrowing a tune window means everything has to be right on. If you have a really wide tuning window, you can make mistakes like they did on the dyno and have it still be like, you know, pretty happy. Which that's what we want, right? I put too much timing in it. Oh, look, it's still awesome. I wonder if you could use CO2 on your intercooler instead, maybe more effective than water. Yeah, I have videos up where we've tried that sort of stuff. We did one with nitrous. You could do CO2 because it has comparable kind of boiling points. So, but the problem is that CO2 going across an air-to-air intercooler doesn't come anywhere close to do what cold compressor supercharging does. We know because we've tried it. Richard, if money was no object and you had full resources of all your major engine builders, what kind of engine would you build? I would just finish the Sprint turbo motor and get it running so that the fuel injection works on it so that I could go tune it and make it work and go to Bonneville. That would be the only thing that I would care about right now. That's my jams right now. I would love to be in the phase where I'm testing that. Testing different things, testing different turbos and testing intercoolers and things like that. Honestly, I think I already have all that. I think I already have the turbo that's going to do it. I have a camshaft that's coming that's going to do that. I think I have a ported head that will already do that. I just need to get I think I can use stock valves, but I'd like to get better valves for it. I would like to do a weird over the top version of that motor. you know, a sleeved, decked, O-ringed, you know, a welded head that raised the port and did all that stuff. But I'd rather just build a 1 liter B series or a K series. I've wanted to build a 1 liter B series for decades now. Talked about it for a long time, since 2000. So for a long time. And I don't know whether I would do it out of a K series now or not. The RPM potential would be greater, I think, on the K series. But I don't know that I want to run it at 10,000. Need to be a test between a GT 3582 and a GT 3584. I have a GT 3582, but I don't have a good one. We have a not great one, and I don't think that would be much of a comparison with the GTX 3584 RS turbo that we have. Would kill the 3582 that we have. Now, I don't know if we had a real kind of 3582 to see what it would be, and you'd have to get to where the hot side flow limit was the problem to find out if there's something. If you tested it at 500 or 600 horsepower, I don't think you're going to see very much there, unless you test it on a big motor. Or if you test it on a small motor, you're going to have to test it at a high boost level and lots of power. But the 3584 definitely wins that. You say keep my stock L83 intake manifold in order to get what I want, so switching to the L86 manifold won't help. I didn't realize yours was an L83. I think that the L86 manifold is better than the L83. I thought that yours was an LS. That's my mistake. I need to have cheat sheets of when LT stuff started. Would you run twins for the street on a 6 liter? No, I think for the street, I'd run on a 6 liter. I'd run a single G42. A single G42 would be between a single 3584 and twin 3584s in both response and power. And I think that would be my choice on a 6 liter, especially for the street. Jordan, no, that's if you have a L83, that mistake is on me. I didn't realize what year it was. I just wasn't even really paying attention. I thought that I was in LS land. Near. Congratulations, all the people that made the spam folder. You guys all got erased. Maybe fun to make a twin cam pushrod motor, stack the cams on top of each other so you can have a TI VCT on a motor, pushrod motor, make everyone. Okay. Yeah, all that's good. That's all dream wheeling stuff. I do like the 11,000 RPM. What is it? 3 liter or 3.2 liter or something Porsche motor out there. That thing sounds glorious. That thing sounds amazing. That's very, very impressive. But it's Saturday night and it's time to go. But I'll be back tomorrow.